back to our WhatsApp Phone series. It's your boy Osas, and in today's episode, we are going to get started with our push notification services. In the completed version of our project, whenever we send a message to a user, we actually send a push notification to their chat partner. And here is what I mean. If I go ahead and send a message from this left simulator, I'm going to get a push notification on the right simulator because the right simulator is currently logged in as Anakin. And even if I send, for example, let's say I send a photo message and I, send it to Anakin inside of this chat room, we get this beautiful push notification, and when you click on it, it launches our application, which is sort of similar to what you would expect from an actual iOS application. So the way we're going to be doing this is going to be a combination of two different services. We're going to be using Apple's push notification services, known as APNS, and Firebase cloud messaging services. So Apple's push notification service is the built-in default native iOS service that allows us to be able to send push notification to a specific user device using their device token. While the Firebase cloud messaging service is essentially our backend that is going to tell APNS which specific message to send and which specific user to send it to. And so what we're going to need to do today is a couple of things. The first thing we need to do is to authenticate our user. Obviously, whenever we are communicating between two different services, and in this situation, we have APNS, which is Apple's push notification service, and we have Firebase, we need some sort of an authentication, a way for Apple to be able to know and verify that we are who we say we are, right? And the way we're going to be doing that is by using our Apple push notification service key. So we need to generate an authentication key inside of our Apple developer account, and then we'll need to upload that developer or that authentication key to our Firebase cloud messaging console. And with that done, we'll jump back into Xcode and then set up our application for push notification. So we have a couple of things to do in today's episode. But before we get started with writing code and actually generating the authentication key, one thing I want to bring your attention to is the important prerequisites for this episode. You cannot follow this episode if you don't have the Apple developer license. And so the Apple developer license is exactly what's going to allow us to be able to create those authentication key and the push notification capabilities that is going to allow our users to be able to send push notification. So it costs $100, and whatever that is in your own currency, if you don't have that set up, there's really no way for you to set up push notification. So with that being said, let us get started with our episode. And I'm going to jump right into my browser, and I'm going to go to Apple Developer. I'm going to go to developer.apple.com, and I'm going to log into my Apple developer account. I'm going to click on Account and jump into my console. And right here, we're going to have this section that has, under the certificates, IDs, and profiles, we want to click on the keys because we want to generate an authentication key. And essentially, an authentication key, again, is a way for Apple to be able to validate that we are who we say we are. So we're going to jump into creating a new key, but I'm not really going to be able to create one right now for me. For you, you'll be able to create one right away because, this is probably your first time creating push notifications. For me, I'm going to have to go revoke one of my older keys because, as you can see right here, it says you've already reached the maximum allowed number of keys for this service, which is Apple's push notification keys. So we're only allowed to have 2 push notifications key per developer account. And so in that case, I'm going to go ahead and revoke this old key that I have, and I'm just going to click on revoke. Again, you don't have to do anything here. And now let us get started together. So the first thing we need to do is click on this blue button right here, and we're going to use this to generate and register a new push notification key. And I'm just going to go ahead and call it Swift School Push Key. Make sure you name it something descriptive. And also, why am I calling it Swift School Push Key instead of WhatsApp clone? Again, the reason is because we actually only have access to 2 push notification keys per developer account. So in an actual production environment, you would probably call this key whatever your team name is. And usually you have 2 keys because one is for production and the other one is for development. And so after you name your push key, we need to select this Apple push notification service. Please make sure you select this section because without this section, we're actually not going to be able to use push notification. And so with that checked, we're going to click the continue button, right? And it's going to ask us for if we want to register it. We're just going to click yes. Go ahead and register, right? And I'm actually going to go ahead and click register. And after registering it, it's going to ask us if we want to download our push notification key. And of course, we want to do that because, like I said, we need to upload that to our Firebase Cloud Console. So I'm going to click download, and we're going to download that onto our desktop, and then I'm going to click done. And so now we have set up our push notification key, which is the first part of our agenda for the day. We've generated our authentication key. Now let us go upload that authentication key to our Firebase Cloud Messaging Console. And for us to do that, we'll just go to our Firebase project. So I'm in my Firebase project overview right now. I'm going to jump into my actual WhatsApp clone project. And right here, we have this project overview. All you have to do is click on this gear icon right here. As you can see, what I'm hovering over right now, click on that gear icon, click on the project settings, and then jump into Cloud Messaging tab. Select the Cloud Messaging tab. And so inside of the Cloud Messaging tab, as you can see, if you scroll down here, we have our Apple Apps section right here. All you need to do is we need to upload that authentication key that we just created. And so it says right here, no APNS auth key. So just click on upload and then jump right into browse, click on the browse and go to your downloads folder. So for me, this is my authentication key. Usually it has this like weird looking auth key and then it has like this weird looking number, but make sure it ends in .p8 because that's the file name. And so click on upload. The next thing we need to do is, as you can see, we need to add our key ID and our team ID, and we're going to get both information from our Apple developer account. So let us jump back to our Apple developer account. Let us click on the push notification key we just created, right? Remember, we just created the Swift School push key. So I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to blur this out on my end, but on your end, you're going to see two options. You're going to see the key ID. So copy the key ID, jump back to your Firebase Cloud Console, paste the key ID in there, and then as for the team ID, it's going to say, where is your team ID? If you click on the membership tab, just click on that option and it's going to jump right here. And I believe the way for us to get the team ID is to scroll all the way down here. So we go back to our Apple developer account, just scroll all the way down here. And right here, you are going to see your team ID. Again, I'm going to blur this out for me because this is private sensitive information. It contains my address and all these other sensitive information. So I'm going to copy my team ID. Again, right in the membership details, you're going to see team ID. I'm going to copy that, go back to my Firebase Cloud Console and paste the team ID right there. So with those two things done, I'm going to go right ahead and click upload button. And right now we are pretty much done with our authentication section. So the next thing we need to go and do is our authorization. So as you can see right here, we first need to generate the auth key and upload it. We just did that. The next thing we need to do is to set up our project to be able to receive push notifications. And the way we're going to do that is first two steps. The first step is we need to add the push notification capability to our project. So I'm going to click on our project right here. I'm going to jump to general, and inside of I'm going to click on target, WhatsApp. I'm going to jump into sign in and capabilities right here. And I'm going to click this plus icon. I don't know if you guys can see this. We have plus capabilities. When you click on that, there's two things we want to look for. We want to look for the push notification because we want to have push notification capabilities. So just select it. Okay, so it's going to do its thing. It's going to upload and then click on that capabilities again. And this time around, look for background modes. And so we're going to click on background modes. And there's a couple of things we need to select in the background mode. We need to select background fetch. So right here, make sure you check your background fetch. And then we need to select the remote notification. So make sure you select the remote notifications. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. You know, we're basically setting up our application to be able to receive push notification and to be able to process data when it's in background mode. So now with that done, we are almost done with our application, with our episode. The next thing we need to go do is to actually ask for permission. Because if you've ever seen this in an actual application, right, when you launch an app, it's going to request for permission to be able to send you push notification. So we need that authorization. And where we're going to do that is going to be inside of our AppDelegate. So we created an AppDelegate a while ago when we were setting up our Firebase project. So I'm just going to Command Shift and O, jump into our AppDelegate file. And inside of our AppDelegate file, we need to add a couple of things to this bad boy. The first thing I want us to import is so let's see, I want us to actually set up our authorization. So I'm just going to write a method inside of our AppDelegate that's going to be responsible for requesting for authorization. So I'm going to say setup for authorization, or I'm just going to say request push notification authorization. Okay. And you know what? That's a bad name. Let's just call it setup push notifications. And I'm going to say for application. So we're going to take in a UI application, which is referring to our actual application. And let's see, this is yelling at us. It should work. Oh yeah, I need to close the bracket. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to call this, because the AppDelegate is the class. It's an object that's responsible for our app lifecycle. So it knows when our app is in background mode, when our app is in foreground mode, when we've launched our app, and all those cool stuff. So anything related to push notification is going to come through this AppDelegate. And therefore, we need to request for push notification before we can actually send it. So I'm going to call this setup push notification method right here. It's going to say which application. And remember, this did finish launching. This is basically the method that is called when we launch our application. So I'm going to set up this method here. And now I need to go request for push notification. And there's a couple of things that I want us to do. I actually also want us to conform, because in our to-do, we need to conform to two things. We need to conform to UN user notification delegates and Firebase messaging delegates. So this one is the one we're going to be using to get our device token. And this one is the one that's going to be responsible for the Firebase messaging. And so let's jump back to our WhatsApp app. It's inside of our WhatsApp clone app, inside of our AppDelegates. And really, let us import Firebase. Actually, we already did. So I'm just going to conform to these bad boys first. Well, actually, let's go ahead and request. I'm all over the place. I'm going to say notification center is equals to UN, UN notification center dot current. Okay. And then I'm going to say notification center dot delegate. So we're going to be using the delegate protocol patterns here. I'm going to say it's equals to self. And by self, we're referring to our AppDelegate class. And this is going to yell at us, but just in a little bit. And then I'm going to create the options of the things that we want to be able to get. So I'm going to say option is equals to NS authorization options, authorization, NS or UN. Is it UN or NS? I think it's UN authorization options. Yep. And really, I want us to be able to get an alert whenever there's a push notification. I want us to be able to get badges, and I want us to be able to get sounds. Okay. And then let's go ahead and actually request for authorization to be able to send push notification. So I'm going to say request authorization. It's going to ask for options. So I'm going to pass in that option, the array that we just created up here. And then the completion handler is there's an error. So I'm going to say granted, meaning if we're granted the authorization, or error. So I'm going to say, let's see. If granted, I just want to put a print statement in this bad boy, and I'm just going to print and say APNS authorization granted. And I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to put an S block right here. APS authorization was denied. Okay. And what else? Let us handle the error case really quickly. I'm just going to say if let error is equals to error. Just unwrap it. We're going to return out of the scope is an error, and then we're going to print the error right in here. So I'm just going to say APNS failed to request authorization. And then we're going to do the error.localize description, just so we know what the error was. And that's really all we need to do here. But before we wrap up, we need to register for remote notification. So I'm going to do this on the main thread. I'm going to say dispatch queue.main.async after, or .async, not async after. And then I'm going to say application dot register for remote notification. As you can see, it says it registers to receive remote notification through APNS. So it's going to register our device for push notification. And so with that being done, remember, we're calling this method, the setup push notifications method, inside of our did finish launching. So the minute our application launches, we'll request for authorization to be able to send push notification. Now, this is yelling at us, so we need to go conform to this delegate. So I'm just going to use extension, because this is a good use of extension here. And I'm going to create an extension on AppDelegate, and I'm going to say we want to conform to the UN user notification center delegates, and it contains a bunch of methods, and you can command and jump into it and sort of see what specific method or what this contract is. So if you jump into this delegate, as you can see, it contains, the first one is, okay, will present, and then it contains did receive, open settings. So it contains a bunch of method that you can use when you get a push notification. So I'm just going to go ahead and see the one that we want here is did receive, let's see, did register. So we want to get the did register for remote notification, and this is going to give us our device token. Okay, so I want us to print that token. Because remember, like I said, when we're sending push notification, we need the device token. You can think of it as the address for the device. Again, it's not the address. This is just an analogy. But you can think of it as a postal service. The push notification is like a postal service. You need an address to know where you're sending your mail to. And the device token is sort of that address. So we're going to say, let us print out that device token here. I'm going to say APNS successfully registered for push notification. And I'm going to print out the device token. So we want to know the address for our specific device. Okay, and then the other thing that I want us to receive, and honestly, you know what? The other thing I want us to do is will present. So when it's presenting, I want us to, I don't want the async version. Will present, let's see. Okay, will present the escaping version. Actually, you know what? I'm all over the place. Let's use the async version. Who cares? And really what I want to do here is I'm just going to return sound. I want to return sound, banner, and what else? Badge. Okay. And again, you could jump into these user notification center delegates if you're curious about all of the method that it contains. And so with that done, I think we're pretty much set to go. Let us go ahead and run our project, and we should actually get an authorization. We should get a device token, and then we're going to go from there. So I'm going to go right ahead and run the project on the simulator, and we should get an alert. Awesome. So right here, it says, WhatsApp clone would like to send you a notification. I'm sure you're already familiar with this alert. Let's go ahead and click allow, and let's see what happens. We should get the print statement that says APNS authorization granted. If we click allow, it says exactly that. That's awesome. And now we need to get our device token. But before we can actually get our device token, we need to set up our, Firebase messaging. And the way we're going to do that is right up here, right after we're doing, notification center delegate is equals to self. Let us also set up our messaging delegate. So I'm going to go right up here, and I'm just going to say messaging, and this is our Firebase push notification messaging, our Firebase cloud messaging, and we're going to set the delegates is equals to self. So we're going to get an error. We need to go conform to messaging delegates. So honestly, I'm going to put a mark statement up here. I'm just going to say mark, and this is going to be for our user notifications delegates and our messaging delegates. Okay, and so now the messaging delegates, we need to conform to it, and it's basically Firebase push notifications. So we're going to say messaging delegates. It's going to handle our FCM token for us. So I think there's only one method that we really care about, which is did receive registration token. Okay, and this is called an FCM token. All right, so now we need to set our device token. Let's see, what do we want to do here? So now I'm going to go ahead and print this. I'm going to just print this. I'm going to say APNS device token, is, and I'm going to print our FCM token, because the FCM token and the device token are pretty much the same thing. And so now let's go right ahead inside of our register for remote notification. The minute we're done registering, I would like to set our messaging token. So I'm going to say messaging.messaging, and I'm going to say APNS token is equals to our device token. And let's go ahead and run our project, and we should be able to get our device token for this specific simulator. And right now I'm going to go ahead and put APNS in our debug just so we can see what we're dealing with. And look at that, voila. We have APNS authorization is granted, which is exactly what we want. And then it has APNS device token is, let's see, which is right here. Our APNS device token is our FCM token, which is exactly what we want, guys. And let's go ahead and run it one more time. Make sure we're getting the actual FCM token. Let's see what happens. Boom, we get the APNS, we get the actual FCM token, which is printing this bad boy right here, which is awesome. And right now, we're actually getting this error right here on our console. It's saying, Firebase, if you prefer to manually integrate Firebase messaging, had the Firebase AppDelegate proxy enabled to your info.p list. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to copy this bad boy. I'm going to jump into our info.p list. Click this plus icon right here, right next to our information property, paste this right here, and I'm going to change it from string to Boolean, and I'm going to change it to no, like it says right here. And let's go ahead and run our project one more time, and that should eliminate a bunch of those garbage that it's spitting out in the console. And look at that, that looks so much better. It says APNS authorization is granted, APNS device token is which is awesome. All right, the one more thing I would like for us to do really quickly before we wrap up this episode is to just validate that all of this is working. Also, I think I'm gonna like to move this, register for push notifications. I'm gonna move it into the granted. So if it is granted, then we're going to register for remote notifications. So, okay, now let's get back to our focus. So the one thing I want us to do is to actually test from our Firebase Cloud Console if we can actually send push notification. And we're going to validate that pretty quickly, but we're going to need this FCM token. So I'm going to copy this FCM token, and I'm going to jump to my Firebase Cloud Messaging console. So I'm going to do Firebase, jump back to my console, and let's see, console. And then I'm going to go back to my messaging. So I'm going to go to build. And is it in build or is it in run? So I'm going to go to the messaging. I'm going to select the messaging, and let's just go ahead and send a quick push notification to our, to our simulator. So I'm going to click on first notification messages. Yes. Click on create. Let's create our first push notification. I'm going to say hello, dudes and dudettes, if that's how that is pronounced. And let's go ahead and paste a notification of what's up. And right now we don't want to have the image, notification name. We don't really care. Let's go next, and let's send to the entire app. Honestly, let's go back to the first one. Can we just send text notification? Yep. Now we're going to have, this is the path where we had our FCM token. Because remember, right here, we're getting our FCM token. We're getting our FCM token after registering our device. So let us send it to this device right here. And I'm just going to go ahead and let me go ahead and minimize this so you guys can see what happens when we actually send our push notification. So I'm going to paste that in here. I've copied that. I'm going to paste it. I'm going to click on the add button, right? And I'm going to go right ahead and click test. Let's see what happens. Look at that. Wow, guys, that is awesome. Let's do it one more time really quickly. I'm going to say second notification, right? A there, put an exclamation mark, hit that send text message button, and check that, FCM token again, hit the text. Boom. Look at that, guys. Beautiful. Second notification. So what happens if we kill our simulator, right? Our application is not currently running, but we still want to send a push notification. It should still work because that's the point of push notification. Let's hit that send text message, select the FCM token, hit the send button. What happens? Look at that, guys. That is awesome. And that's pretty much it for this episode, guys. So right now, what we have done is, if we do a quick review, we actually generated an authentication key, which we uploaded to our Firebase Cloud Messaging console. And then we went and added a bunch of capabilities to our Xcode projects, which allows us to be able to receive push notification and make background fetch and, processing. And then we request for permission to be able to send push notification to our user's device. And that's what we're really doing here, right? Where we say request authorization for push notifications. And after we did that, we went ahead and actually conformed to the messaging delegates and the notification center delegates. And that's what we're doing right here inside of our AppDelegate extension. And then we set our APNS to be equals to our device token. And so that allows us to be able to use Firebase Cloud Messaging to deliver payload to our APNS and our user device. And with that done, that wraps it up for this episode. In the next episode, we are going to focus on actually setting up our server-side logic. So essentially, we're going to create something called Firebase Cloud Functions. And that's going to allow us to be able to listen to it's going to allow us to be able to listen to actions inside of our database. And that is going to allow us to go into, like, for example, our real-time database paths. Let's say, for example, when a user sends a message into this channel, we can listen for that message and use that immediately to send push notifications to their chat partners. Thank you for watching as always, guys. Please like and subscribe. This takes a lot of work and effort to create. And, it just means the world to me, and it keeps me motivated to keep delivering quality premium content for you guys. And thank you very much for watching again. I'll see you guys in the next episode.